Ah, nothing like celebrating Sonic Times Day at the Olive Garden. Because when you're here, you're family. Hashtag not a sponsor.
You're now watching Vindo. You're now watching Vindo. You're now watching Vindo.
Yes, Sonic Times Day, a day to spend with loved ones, break unlimited breadsticks together, and celebrate the anniversary of our little favorite blue dude's success in entering the Hollywood scene. As we drink a ceremonial toast from our Olive Garden water, we need to realize that we're living in the best timeline. No, I mean that. We sacrificed the state of the world in almost every other way possible, but in return, we got the best version of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. We narrowly avoided living in a timeline where we had to watch a Sonic that looked like the painting in Strong Matt's closet stare down a bunch of kids as they play baseball.
Come on in here.
Sonic betrayed us! I gotta get rid of all my Sonic stuff! Yeah! All of it!
That could have been us. But instead, we've gotten 2 incredible movies, some fun shorts, and we have a Knuckles TV show and a 3rd movie on the way, which is gonna feature Shadow, oh my god! But how did we get to this point? How did the Sonic movie overcome all of its odds and surpass expectations? Attempts at making a Sonic feature film started all the way back in the early 90s. Of course, we got the Sonic OVA, which is technically not a movie, but is labeled as a movie here in America. But I digress. A pitch for a Sega Saturn forward live-action animation hybrid was in development for a time, titled Sonic the Hedgehog: Wonders of the World. Sega of America's Director of Entertainment and Consumer Products, Michelin Risley, and screenwriter Richard Jeffries put together a treatment for the movie that had Sonic and Robotnik escaping from the Sega Saturn and running amok in our world. In this treatment, Sonic helps a kid named Josh reconnect with his divorced parents, and together, Sonic and Josh stop Robotnik from making a Pinocchio Pleasure Island-esque Robotnik land. This would have involved Robotnik taking children, using them as slave labor to mine for Chaos Emeralds, and sending robot duplicates home with the parents. Also, he would have had like a gang of cybernetically enhanced schoolboys. Would this movie have been secretly amazing? Alas, it was not to be, as Sega of Japan allegedly got cold feet and shut the project down. The next attempt would happen a few years later in 2002 when Ben Hurst, one of the writers on Sonic Sat AM, would try pitching a film continuation of the fan favorite series. Okay, this is the part of the video where I have to talk about Ken Penders. Ken Penders, for the uninitiated, is a former writer of the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book series when it belonged to Archie Comics, and he's also the hoarder of the only known photo of the Vulture's costume from Sam Raimi's Unproduced Spider-Man 4? Wish I was making that up, but that's true. The only real thing you've got to know about Ken is that he's kind of a weasel and is known for his lawsuits against Sega for use of characters that he deemed too similar to the ones he created when he worked on the licensed comic book series. At some point, Penders caught wind of Ben Hurst's project. When Hurst invited Penders to join him on the film, Penders instead phoned Sega and told them that Ben Hurst was trying to co-opt the franchise. Cold feet struck again on Sega's side, and this project was also killed. Until Ken Penders pitched his own version of the project, Sonic Armageddon, which,
They said it was just a video game, but I knew better.
I don't even have to commentate about why this didn't move forward. What would become the version we all know began being talked about in 2014 when it was announced that Sony would be teaming up with Sega and Marza to release a Sonic the Hedgehog feature film. News was slow for a couple of years, but eventually in 2016, it was announced that Tim Miller of Blur Studios and Deadpool fame would be brought on as a producer. And in the director's chair, Tim brought with him another Blur Studios alum, Jeff Fowler. Through Tim's company, Blur Studios, Jeff Fowler directed some of the beautiful CGI cutscenes from everyone's favorite game, Shadow the Hedgehog. So neither were strangers to the series. With Patrick Casey and Josh Miller on as screenwriters, the movie was moving full steam ahead, and eventually moving studios as well, ending up at Paramount. The cast was slowly announced to the public, featuring Ben Schwartz in the titular role and Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. Many names were thrown around for Sonic's human friend in the film, Tom, including Paul Rudd and, according to concept art, Chris Evans and Chris Pratt, with the role ultimately going to James Marsden. All of those guys have been in a Marvel movie. And now one of them's a Mario.
Koopas!
Filming began and fans were hungry to know more. There was a long while where somehow everyone was convinced that this was a picture of Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. Does anyone else remember this? How did this happen? That is clearly not Jim Carrey. We now know that that's Frank Turner as Crazy Carl, but everyone thought it was Jim Carrey. I don't know how that happened. Filming ran from September to October 2018 and was mostly shot in the Vancouver, British Columbia area. A few short months later, fans would get their first taste of what the Sonic movie would have to offer when IGN debuted a teaser poster showcasing a silhouetted redesign of the blue blur. Fan reaction was, it was,
Oh my god! Oh, that's gross!
This hits so many sour spots for me.
Can you blame him? I remember coming home from work and seeing this for the first time, and my only response was to pour a glass of whiskey. Understandably, the community was disturbed by this teaser. Even producer Tim Miller admits in the IGN article that debuted this poster that Sega, quote, wasn't happy with the eyes. How was anyone happy with those? Look at those things. Especially in the silhouette, that looks like he's got like a fisheye or something hanging off of him. He's got a little dingleberry. Got a dingleberry for an eyeball. Little gumdrop eye. Tim Miller doubles down on the design, saying, he's not going to feel like a Pixar character would because I don't think that's the right aesthetic to make it feel like a part of our world. And it's gonna look weird if we don't do this. It's gonna look weird if you do this. Another poster leaks showing Sonic's legs on full display, posed strangely on the Golden Gate Bridge, along with sparking many memes and attempts at recreating this pose. Oh no, this is when my feet pics leak. The backlash of this poster prompted a response from the movie's official social media team. Can't a guy work out? A few more leaks would happen, but eventually on April 4th, 2019, the world would be exposed to a trailer, giving us the first full official look at Sonic's movie design. This broke the internet. This is where it happened. This is where the darkest timeline intersected with our own. This is when the timeline where Ken Pender's designs are normal attempted to merge. Many speculate this event actually caused the pandemic. Whether it's the overly realistic eyes, the lips, the teeth, the little goblin hands when they zip the back shut. Oh my god, what is that? There is plenty of cursed material for people to react to. The Guardian even calling it a 200-mile-per-hour slap in the face. This is one of those rare times in my life where Sonic transcended my bubble of mutuals and literally everyone was talking about him. I had family members reaching out, random coworkers who had never talked about this kind of stuff before. Customers were coming into the restaurant I worked at the time talking about it. This was a phenomenon. The consensus was simple. Change needed to happen. And director Jeff Fowler was immediately ready to accept criticism, saying in an article with Games Radar, it was pretty clear on the day the trailer was released, just seeing the feedback and hearing the feedback, that fans were not happy enough with where we were at. It was at this time that Jeff Fowler took a look at the chaos that was wrought by the merging timeline, took a bite of his proverbial Olive Garden breadstick and said, nay. Just under a month after the trailer was released, Fowler took to Twitter to confirm that they were working on changing the design. Behind the scenes, Tyson Hesse, of Sonic Mega Drive and Sonic Mania fame, got to work leading a team on the redesign of the character. Fans were beyond happy that the team behind the movie listened to them, but some feared the toll it might take on the film's animators. Jeff Fowler quelled some of those fears when he posted a teaser image by Hesse to Twitter on May 24th, 2019. Sporting just a peek at our new Sonic, it also announced a new release date for the film to allow more time for the visual effects team. Fans patiently awaited a look at the new and improved Sonic, finally getting their wish on November 12th, 2019, just days after the film's originally intended November 8th release date. This new design sported a much more accurate and cartoony look, overwhelmingly wowing audiences. In stark contrast to the film's original trailer, the like to dislike ratio was off the charts. The film would go on to be released on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2020, and despite releasing just before a lockdown due to a global pandemic, it became the highest grossing video game movie of all time in North America, a title it would hold on to until its sequel would claim it 2 years later. The film would go on to receive mixed but mostly positive reviews, with some noting that the product placement was a little too on the nose. Which I don't think was that obvious. While it's not a perfect movie, Sonic is a surprising amount of fun, and a lot of that comes down to the film's stellar cast. James Marsden and Tika Sumpter are wonderful as Sonic's adoptive parents, Tom and Maddie, and Jim Carrey brings that classic 90s manic energy in full force as Dr. Robotnik. And who could forget fan favorite, Agent Stone, played by Lee Majdoub. He may only have a limited amount of screen time, but no one is able to resist the charm of a man carrying a latte with steamed Austrian goat milk. The movie's real secret weapon, however, is none other than Ben Schwartz. The man is a powerhouse of comedy and oozes charisma. One of the hardest times I've ever laughed was watching the Middleditch and Schwartz comedy specials for the first time. Please do yourself a favor and check these out. They are so funny. Initially, Ben had done the role as a stand-in while Tim Miller and Jeff Fowler were developing a demo to sell to studios. The filmmakers made the right choice by bringing him back to do the full film. Ben is a perfect choice for Sonic, infusing him with a natural youthful energy and the snarky attitude the character is known for. But all of this falls apart without the hard work of the team behind Sonic's redesign. Much like when you take a scene and change the music to drastically alter the tone, Sonic's redesign is what makes this movie work. While the original design is argued to be more realistic, so much of the heart is lost in translation when your character looks like the singing roadkill from the old Quiznos commercials. Mikkel and Risley once said of the cancelled Sonic Wonders of the World, it all depends on the timing of the movie, the look of the movie. And while that movie may not have had what it needed to reach the silver screen, whether it was the dwindling interest in the Sega Saturn or the insufficient state of visual effects at the time, the modern incarnation of the movie certainly did. Sonic the Hedgehog released in 2020, a year where all of us needed something comfortable to lean on. When we had hardly had the opportunity to leave the house during lockdown, we jumped at a chance to go see a drive-in showing of Sonic, just to give us that little feeling of nostalgic normalcy. This movie's given me so many fun things to quote with friends, still things we say every day. I flew to another city and back in one day just to see this movie in 4D. And I always find myself falling back on this movie if I've had a rough week or if I just need a laugh to get my spirits up. And I've heard a lot of people say that. And it's thanks to Tyson Hess and the entire team behind the film's visual effects that when we watch the movie, Sonic's smile greets us with a gentle kindness, instead of a disturbingly human set of teeth. I can't say for sure what the timeline is like where the Sonic movie released as it was originally intended. Maybe we achieve world peace. Maybe the McRib and nacho fries are available all year round. But if I had to bet, I bet the movie would have failed. With the iconic look of Sonic stripped away and surely souring newer younger viewers, the Sonic movie would have likely faded away into obscurity. Just another butt of a joke for a franchise that is no stranger to that. But luckily, we don't live in that timeline. We live in a timeline where Sonic is cute and fun. We live in a timeline where his movie was successful enough to spawn an incredible sequel with a tremendous looking future. And most importantly, we live in a timeline where Olive Garden Guy is the canonical nickname for a high-ranking military commander. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to order another round of my never-ending possible while booking my stay at the Four Seasons Oahu through Zillow. I'ma love you, I'ma miss ya. Take care.